Hello, Melvin. Yeah, Melvin.
Hello, doctor. How are you?
Very well, very well. Thank you, thank you, thank you. Very well. How is the winter over there?
Not bad. We managing as
Good.
usual.
Yeah, same
It's
thing here.
not as bad as before. It's a bit bearable now.
Okay. Yeah, it's the same thing here too. We had quite snow the other day, but it's melting now. So
Okay.
yeah, yeah.
Okay.
I,
So
I,
how's everything?
well, they're all doing fine. They're all gone out, but everybody doing okay. Thank God. Thank God. Yeah. You hear
So
from?
are we live? I take it we're live on air now.
Oh yeah, yeah, yeah. We are.
Okay. All right.
Yeah. So let's give it a few minutes. I have a few minutes before noon.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No
Then
problem at all.
yeah, that's right. And then we can set the ball rolling. So we can warm up uh, and yeah. So how is the virus at your end?
It's going down considerably. I think they're getting on top of things now.
Mm,
Um, so it's really going down at a very you know, exponential pace rate at the moment. So I think they're doing fairly well.
good, good,
So
good, good,
it's not as bad as a month ago. I think they're really doing well, and
good.
the vaccination process is
Oh, good. Oh, good.
underway. It's ongoing.
Oh, good. Oh, good. Yeah. Yeah. I think here too they're getting organized and things should be okay come next week. The vaccine is out. They're planning to get some more.
Okay.
Yeah. Uh, oh, yeah. Yeah. Because of these things, I cannot go home this year.
I
Yeah.
know. I know.
Yeah.
It's a pity, but hopefully, we're taking measures and steps so that everything can be okay by probably by Christmas, and
Good.
I
Good.
think things would
Yeah.
look good then.
Good. Wonderful. Wonderful. Yeah. That's our hope and prayer. Um, okay. Well, we've got a little bit warm up and some people are coming in. Yeah, I mean, you are the star. And a lot of people are looking forward to this. So, welcome again, brother. My dear brother, you know, I'm a fan of yours. I like you very much. I thought I should showcase you as I have done with other Gambians. Typically, what I do is I introduce kind of the subject, and then you take it on from there. It will be a dialogue back and forward. Of course, you approve the topic. Um, so again, I feel very proud of Gambians, including yourself, how much they're doing exceptionally well in Europe, in UK, in United States, and other parts of the world. So far, I've interviewed or dialogue with few Gambians in the past, and it's gone very, very well. Now, as I say, both of us and many, many others in the diaspora are very patriotic citizens of the Gambia. We love our home. We love that country. Home is home. Home is where you find your family, friends, you have your freedom, and so forth and so on. Now, I do these things to, um, again, to tell the rest of the world that small as we are in the Gambia, yet our people are great people, men and women and young people too. So I've been doing a lot of philanthropic work there. I don't have the money, but at least I feel that there are a lot of poverty and people on the margins that needs to be helped. So I do the little I can to help. Again, we are here to build, to empower, and to also further the good name of the country. So with that, then, um, you can go ahead and introduce yourself and then the topic as well, and then we go from there. How is that?
That is perfectly okay, but I'm sure you have done the introductory bit because I'm Melville Robertson Roberts, and thank you. As you know, I'm Gambian. I live in the UK.
Hey, I can hear you.
Just that when I'm on the live, because it's Facebook Live, so whenever somebody calls my phone, it tends to pause the video. So if at any point you don't hear me, please just be patient with me. It's because somebody is calling my phone.
I understand. I understand. Yeah, yeah.
Okay. So yes, like I was saying, I'm Gambian. I'm a lawyer. Um, and Yeah, I think that's about it. I don't really know what to say about myself, really. I think most people that are watching your live video or the ones that are watching it through my feed know exactly who I am. So I don't need much of an introduction. So I'm happy to be on your platform. It's the first time I am going to be on your platform, and I've actually watched a series of your interviews, and I'm glad to be here. So I'll leave you to take it on, and we'll just get on with it.
Yeah, okay. I love it. I love it. I love it. Yeah. So now let's jump into the topic. By the way, belated happy independence. I'm sure you people in Britain, Gambians, must have enjoyed it, maybe quietly, but at least the day is recognized. And I remember going back when the British flag was brought down, and well, this is to show how young I am. But
The Union Jack was lowered and the Gambian flag was hoisted up.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah,
So yeah, I still remember the feeling that I had,
you had
and
that.
the feeling of nationhood, the feeling of pride, although with some apprehension, but we trust and hope that things will work. So far, things have been working, although not perfect, but at least we've been managing. Uh, our concern is about the youth, the young people. Of course, the young people are the future, the present, the current, and the future of any nation. Uh, no nation or any nation that doesn't care for its young people, youth, is bound to doom. So you and I agree that at least we should examine or re-examine the worth of the youth, the young people, in the next 20 years or more. We have so many young people. I think statistically, Gambia is made up of about maybe
60, it was about 68% from
yeah, well,
the last figures, official statistics we have.
Yeah, so that's quite a huge group
Number
of people. Yeah, and we need to pay attention. I've been very concerned about the young people as we are gradually phasing out. We need to equip and to encourage and to find space for our young people. We're not doing very much on that side. We still have the issue of the backway boys and girls, and that's still going on. It seems there is no solution, or maybe not quite a concerted effort to think and to plan about the young people. What's your concern?
Well, foremost, I think you just mentioned something quite interesting, which I always have some sort of, I develop some sort of trepidation when that is mentioned, and that is the young people are the future leaders of tomorrow. I think that notion, that slogan in itself is problematic, and that is why we are facing some of the issues that we see. And for that reason, that is why you would find it very prudent to have such a topic of discussion. Now, I think because the focus is on the operative world tomorrow, there is not much attention being given today. I think the young people are the future leaders of today. Because by the time it comes to tomorrow, it would have been too late.
Too late. I agree with you. Yeah,
I'll go back, and since you mentioned your presence and, of course, some sort of participation at the historic event of the lowering of the Union Jack and Gambia becoming self-independent and taking its own affairs in their own hands. Now, if you look at the composition of the first cabinet of the Gambia, Sadauda, at the time as prime minister and subsequently president of the Gambia, was in his 40s, early 40s. He got into the whole political atmosphere in his 30s. I went back and I tried to do some sort of, because when I read the book Cairo, which was the autobiography of Sadauda, I got to, it just hit me hard that these were actually young men. They were youth in their day that took on the affairs of the nation from the colonial master, and 80% of them had no semblance of experience with respect to governance. For example, you had Omar Jallo, O.J. Jallo, who was Minister of Agriculture then. He was in his 20s. O.J. Jallo in 1965 was in his 20s. This was the Minister of Agriculture, which was the most pivotal and the most, should I say at the time, the most strategic line ministry of government, because Gambia depends solely at the time on agriculture. It was the backbone of the economy of the Gambia. And this line ministry was entrusted in the hands of a 28 or 29-year-old gentleman who had never been a minister prior, never had some phenomenal academic degree in agriculture at the time, young, energetic, and these were the leaders of the day. How
Correct.
old, if you think about it, how old was BB Dabo in 1965?
Mm.
So it really is troubling when in our Gambia, in our society, you see retired Gambians fighting for positions and yet still making public pronouncements that the youths are the future of tomorrow. You are taking away their tomorrow.
Correct.
There is no tomorrow for them
Yeah.
because you are absolutely taking their tomorrow. That is
Mhm.
why we have something called pension. That is
Mm.
why we have retirement. If you look at Rwanda today, Rwanda is a country that was faced with the worst form of genocide in modern day history.
Correct.
Over 1 million Rwandans died.
Mm.
Rwanda today boasts of the youngest state minister who at the time of her appointment was 23 years old.
Mm.
So you see, if you look at the composition of the Rwandan cabinet, they are young people that are energetic, that are taking control of the affairs of their nation.
Yeah.
This is their time. The time is now. It is not tomorrow. I don't want somebody
Exactly.
to tell me about my tomorrow. My tomorrow is now. My tomorrow is now. Because come tomorrow, figuratively speaking, I should be planning for my retirement, sitting down in my cozy corner and watching and supervising and being in an advisory position, grooming the next generation that would take up from me.
Good.
But the whole notion, the whole idea of, oh, the youths are the leaders of tomorrow, the tomorrow never comes.
Well, okay. So now we're going to really analyze that. That's a very, very pertinent point you're making. So we need to re-examine or even maybe dive into the word today and tomorrow so that we change the thinking of our people back home. We need to question the word tomorrow, which is what you're doing in a way. So how do we go in, what kind of mechanism they will put in place? I think that really is the big issue in our country and perhaps continentally in Africa. We keep pushing the narrative that the young people are of the tomorrow when really should be current, present, now. So part of what I do is try to find solutions and remedy. And I fully agree with you that the young people are of today. What parameters do we have in place? Or what could we suggest? Let's get into that.
Now, okay, for anyone, for any individual, or for any institution to take on a practical solution to having mechanisms and structures in place for any sort of idea and or project, the mindset has to shift phenomenally towards the actualization of that project.
Okay, so that mindset is something that has bogged me uh, pre and post Jame era. I think we need to go back and examine the educational system and structure because again, since and I agree with your idea, your concept that the young people are of today, not tomorrow. We should prepare them for tomorrow. So where does the today begin? Given the concept that illusion that bad concept that we have. Don't you think we should go back to the educational system and structure and change the narrative?
Again, the educational system falls within the square of structural and abstract. Structure in the sense that you have to have tangible processes, tangible mechanisms that can be seen and felt in place to have a more robust and progressive educational system. Now, abstract in the sense that you have to have the vision, you have to have the mindset, you have to have you have to have an understanding of where you want and what you want from your educational system. You
Well,
need to be able.
again, you mentioned abstract. I mean, abstract is non-tangible. And I think really is we've lost or sight of the visionary. I don't think we have visionary leaders again, people who are thinking not only of themselves, but kind of holistic thinking and thinking into the future, planning. Don't you think that visionary aspect is part of the whole problem that we have in the Gambia?
Absolutely, I agree. And that would take you back to my initial premise, which is the lack of mindset. For you to have a vision, there has to be a common denominator, at least of a mindset that takes you towards the trajectory of that vision. For me to think about the future of my child, I have to have the mindset already prepared that I am indeed going to raise kids.
Mm-hmm.
So the mindset has to be there, and then the mindset would then begin to metamorphose into the vision. So
Mm-hmm.
what we have in Gambia or in our society predominantly is the absence of that mindset.
Mm-hmm.
And because there is the absence of that mindset, the vision cannot be clear.
So I'm trying to get into the root of this thing. What is the issue? And I keep contemplating, thinking. I mean, even though I am in the States, almost every day I'm thinking about what has held us back in the Gambia. So, like somebody said some while ago, in Europe, the universities that's where you create concepts and ideas. And I don't see that happening in the Gambia. I think our people are so complacent, so comfortable. Maybe it's the whole environment, the whole society doesn't give you time to think.
I think it's the other way around. I think rather than the society creating the enabling environment, it goes back to what I was trying to examine, to analyze initially. It is the mindset that creates the society. A combination of the various mindsets stemming from different individuals gives you the type of society that you have. It's a common agenda. It's a common goal of different individuals from distinct and different backgrounds coming together with a particular mindset. And this is what frames the society. This is what frames the societal norm. So, for example, you mentioned about America. Now, yeah. I'll give an example to somebody like Rosa Parks.
Mm-hmm.
Now, Rosa Parks decided to sit. Rosa Parks decided to sit.
Mm-hmm.
She decided to refuse to give up her seat so that you and I can walk in America as Black people. Yeah. So that was her vision. And her vision at the time when she decided to sit, you and I would not have thought that her sitting would enable us to walk.
So how do we get that into the mentality, the thinking? How we're not short of educated people. I mean, you are well grasped, well educated. By the way, you went to my alma mater too. I went to Wesley, and I don't know which college you were associated with. Yeah.
Tell us.
So yeah. Okay. So we have well educated people, and some of them in Europe, in England, in the United States. Others have gone back. So do you not think that these are the people, the motivators, the idealists, the innovators, the ones who should get this kind of discussion we're talking about, we're having here, going in our context, so that the mindset begins to change? Because if you have not traveled abroad, you don't know anything beyond your community, your society, your environment. So what can we challenge? How can we challenge the so-called elite, the educationists, to try to implement some of these things that will bring about change?
I think that's pretty easy. For you to work on any sort of implementation program, you have to have the right people with the wherewithal in certain strategic positions who, like you said, understand, have a vision, and have a totally different mindset that maybe has been aided by experience and traveling and having a notion and an idea of what is obtained in a different environment. But again, it boils down to the societal mindset. Because if for example, I think Gambia is one West African country that if you go across the world and travel anywhere, every single international organization on earth that I know of, maybe except for the European Union, that I've been to, there are Gambians at the top.
Yeah, yeah.
Now, what is happening is these Gambians that are serving other countries and bringing much development and progress to their institutions are within an environment that allows them to thrive. So if the environment is not there, and you keep having square pegs in round holes, the group of persons that you are referring to cannot bring about any meaningful change.
So the issue here is the environment, the community, the people. How do we, what kind of mechanism can you recommend or suggest? I mean, this is a very interesting topic.
You have to tap into the human resources of your country, of your nation, of individuals that have the capacity, have the experience, have the knowledge, have the wherewithal, and have the willingness to serve.
Yeah, but Brother Melvin, don't you think we need to challenge? Because the community, the society is the same as you know. And things are not...
Dr. Loum, I absolutely disagree. And I disagree for the simple fact that I serve in the government of the Gambia. I understand the dynamics of the civil service. Not only did I serve in just any capacity, I held a senior government position. And correct. I understand the mindset of the average Gambian, especially within the civil service structure. Now, you can have a very, very progressive individual with all the visions, with all the right frame of mind and thinking. But if you get into a system that is very archaic, a system that is so set in its ways that it does not even allow you a room for growth, then what happens is you become a retarded, your growth is retarded. Your ability to influence is retarded. Your ability to to make a change, to make a difference in that very system is curtailed because the system is rigid. Now, who is the system? What is the system? The system is, in my opinion, based on my analysis, is the individuals that man positions of authority that have influence over that institution and how that institution works. Now, for example, if you have a secretary general that is the head of the civil service that can decide to implement policies that would put in structure for an effective and robust civil service, then that person is in a position to influence change.
Correct. Yeah.
Now, it does not matter how progressive you are as an individual. If you take up a government position and you are not within the brackets whereby you can change and influence change, and your influence is very assertive, then what would happen is the system frustrates you. It frustrates you to a point of non-existence. And then you suddenly begin to see yourself as a very integral part of the system that you speak against.
Yes, I totally, completely, and fully.
I'm sorry, doctor, but I think I'm having a low battery. Is it possible to switch your phone to landscape so I can do the same? That's mine, so that I can be able to charge my phone while I speak to you.
This way?
I'm sorry for that, but yeah, that's perfect.
Okay.
Perfect. Am I okay? Am I
Yeah, you're fine. Yeah. So
okay.
So yeah, you see again, I completely and fully endorse what you're saying. Go ahead.
Yeah, so again, it brings us to the initial stance that we took at the beginning of this conversation.
Mm.
It comes to leadership.
Yeah.
When you have a leader that has a vision, it trickles down into policies of that particular leader. And when you have the right policies in place, the implementation follows smoothly because the leadership has a vision, and the policy is what takes the leader into that trajectory that takes that particular leader to the actualization and realization of that particular vision.
So yeah, I agree with you 100%. So what kind of vision? Now, again, remember the topics about the young people, the youth, and as you clearly stated, they are off today, preparing them for tomorrow. So where can we plan? Where is the vision, the preparation, the towards getting the young people prepared for today and for tomorrow?
The preparation process is not for tomorrow. The preparation process is for today.
Correct. Yeah, I agree.
Your decisions of today is what would factor in and create the environment for tomorrow. So your policies for the young people have to be felt right now. Your educational system that prepares the young people for future positions of leadership, have to be now, and it has to be felt now. But in order for you to have a very progressive, pertinent, and useful education system, you have to have a vision of the type of products you want out of that system. So for example, you have an educational system that promotes literature, but does not promote science. What will happen? You cannot have products of scientific influence
because it is not there at that particular time, and the educational system does not have the vision to produce scientists. But if you have a vision that in 2024, short-term and long-term goals, I want to produce doctors. And you see, I am very cautious when it comes to criticizing Yahya Jammeh. Because in as much as you can criticize him, in as much as you can find a lot of faults with whatever he did, he was, in my opinion, in some instances, a leader with vision.
Correct.
Yahya Jammeh took over when the Gambia had no university. But he had a vision. His vision was, we need to produce homegrown doctors. We need to produce homegrown lawyers. This was the vision. This was the long-term goal. What did he do? He created policies towards the actualization of that goal. And when you create the policies, the structures will spring up out of those policies. And in springing up, you have the university extension program. So it was not a university that was born when he had the initial idea. He knew that he had to start from somewhere.
Correct.
Now he had the initial idea, you had the extension program, you had the twinning of the St. Mary's University in Halifax.
Correct.
Or Nova Scotia, I can't remember, but it was the St. Mary's University
in Canada. Yeah.
In Canada, he twined, and today what is happening? Gambia is producing medical doctors, lawyers, people from different disciplines of the highest repute, who are now going on to serve in various capacities in international organizations.
Correct. Correct.
So he had a vision at the start. And guess what? Today, he is not in Gambia. He's no more the president. But because he had progressive and very robust policies, the structures that came and emanate out of those policies are tangible for you and I to see today. And I know you do a lot of support. I know I've never said this to you openly because you might think I don't know, but you do a lot of support with the Gambia. You give a lot of books to the University of the Gambia. You help with a lot of support to the judiciary. Most people don't know this. I know this because, I am very observant. I take a lot of notice on certain things that I don't mention. But if the environment was not there, if the policies were not there, you would not be supporting a university because there would not have been a university.
Right.
So again, it is a classic example of how a vision, if very correct and is very passionate, we don't have to wait. So Yahya Jammeh at that time decided that I have a vision. I may not be here. I may not be there. But if I have the policies in place with the right atmosphere and the right people, this institution can grow. When Martin Luther King had a dream, he dreamt that someday his two daughters would come together and would live a very progressive life where they would not be judged by the color of their skin, but by the content of their character. When he had that vision, he was being judged by the color of his skin and not the content of his character. But at the time that he had the vision, at the time that he had the dream, he knew he had to create the environment. He knew he had to create the trajectory to ensure that his two daughters someday would not be judged by the content of, would not be judged by the color of their skin, but by the content of their character. So he could have rested on his laurels and say, you know what, I am not going to see this in my lifetime. There's nothing that I have to do. Let me just carry on. This is the struggle. It may not change. One man cannot change it all, but he had a vision. And he knew that if he had a vision with the right frame of mind, the right spirit, the passion, someday it could be actualized. And I'm sure when you saw Barack Obama assume the role of the presidency of the United States. You went back to the dream that Martin Luther King had decades ago, and you knew that he was not being judged by the color of his skin, but by the content of his character.
Boy, yeah, I mean, this is getting more interesting as I listen to you, and I really feel you fully prepared for this, and look, I mean, when I look at you and hear your ideas and see how you're performing, what a leader that we have. I mean, you should be one of the people back home helping to structure, helping to create policies and put them in place because you have a vision. And you're right, Jammeh had a vision. You're right, Martin Luther King Jr. had a vision, and so on and so forth. So I hope the leaders in the Gambia are listening. And by the way, we're not criticizing, we're trying to help out. And maybe these things are not discussed, but it's good that we dive, we analyze, we think, and we help our people. So in my view, given what you said so far, we have not come up with a proper leadership. We've not come up with proper leadership. Maybe they're there, but we're not seeing them. So we need good leadership, effective leaders. We also need policies and vision that will work. Jammeh has done his own. And I often, like you, not very critical of him. Of course, there's always two parts to a story, 2, 3, 4, 5. I mean, the guy had his own good stuff that he did. And a lot of our kids, our children, are enjoying from those visionary things that he did. So we thank him for that. Now, I think now that we need a complete overhaul of the entire system, because in my view, we have the wrong leaders. In my view, things are not working. Well, maybe or maybe not, but I think things are not working because I go home. And thank you for recognizing my contribution in terms of the books. In fact, people should see that currently I'm supporting a school in Abuko, which I've always done. Unfortunately, the rain came very hard this year and it caused a lot of damage. So now I'm soliciting, I'm raising funds to help repair and so forth. And if some Gambians are listening and they have money, funds, please send them my way. Again, a man with a vision. Brother Roberts have demonstrated a lot of vision, visionary thinking, forward-moving thinking. So I think now we need a complete overhaul of the entire system because absolutely things are not working. We have the wrong people in leadership. They're there grabbing. They're there selfishly. Selfishly, I underline the word selfish. They're there to take care of themselves and their family. And it grieves me. It truly and really grieves me. Gambia is receiving lawful aid from the outside world. Your tax money, my tax money, eventually is shrinking back to the Gambia. And it's unfortunately getting into the pockets of some greedy, selfish people who care only for themselves. Quite recently, again, I'm not promoting myself. When I post things on Facebook, it's for two things: to show that we could change things. Secondly, is to inspire. I get a lot of people begging me, sending requests all the time. Dimbalima Akhalis, Suma Hali, Suma Dombi, amount school fees and so forth. And being who I am, and I'm sure you brought Roberts, you do the same too, and many other Gambians in the diaspora, we're moved to help. Although sometimes they're telling really lies, but anyway, we leave that for another time. So what I'm trying to get at is that we need an overhaul. And not only that, but recently I saw few ladies. Well, one started begging me, and I helped pay the school fees. And then another one came up, oh, our Mahalis, Burde Marse, all that kind of stuff. I said, but what do you do? She said, I'm a petty trader. And I said, you know, and she gave me an example of what she does. And quickly I said to myself, she has a gift that is not being utilized. And so what I did subsequently is to have a group of ladies in the Gambia whom I'm trying to have on funding so that I can help them. At least if you give each of them, there are 10 so far, each of them $2,000 to start their own business. And that business should not, three things, is to sustain themselves, to become independent, and to feel that worth something. So these are the goals I have in mind for these 10 ladies. Otherwise, they are languishing, nobody helping them, the government not helping them. Parastatals, those who have money, doesn't care about them. They are in the margins. So there are many of this type of people within our community and society that we can help. It is not that, Brother Melvin, you have the money, nor do I. I wish I had plenty. But what I do is I engage other friends who are well off or better off than myself and try to convince them to help me with some funding so I can help my people back home. That's the secret. And we can all do that. So I'm saying this as an example of how much you, Brother Melvin, I know you care, and how much I care, and many other Gambian in the diaspora care. But things are not working in the Gambia. So we need a change. And that's why it is important that we come up with this topic and find ways of helping our people. So that change then, what we've discussed so far, I think we need a complete overhaul of the entire system. And Brother Melvin, you've mentioned you mentioned the idea of policy. You've mentioned the right leadership. You've mentioned also execution. I mean, if the policy is there and isn't executed, then nothing happens. Again, the environment as something. I'm kind of summarizing what we've talked so far. The environment in something, the society, the community needs to change their mentality, their attitude. You know, I'm surprised that when I went home, I saw guys still sitting in the street in the morning drinking a tire. I mean, these are young, able-bodied guys who should be doing some work, but they are so complacent. and all they can do or turn to is attire. So far, so good, as we've discussed. I hope some of the leaders are listening, and you've made some excellent points, Brother Roberts. And so let's talk a little bit, again, in relation to the young people who are of today. We see a lot of them going back way. Why? And this is a question to you. Why and how can we resolve this back way syndrome?
Okay. The issue, okay. I think if you want to talk about the back way syndrome, it would always be good. I like to take things in context. So therefore, you cannot talk about the back way and don't talk about migration. So the issue of the back way really is a subset of the whole notion and idea of migration. Now, can migration be stopped?
No.
Can migration be stopped? The answer is no. Because if you go back into context, into history, regardless of how you look at it, from the Quran, from the Torah, from the Bible, you would then begin to understand that the human being is a wandering animal. It's a what? Sorry, I don't want to say a human being is an animal, but it's a wandering. Yeah. It's a wandering. Yeah. It's basically a wandering person, a wandering soul.
Well, the sociological word is we are mobile people. We
are. Yeah. That's it.
So we move from one place to
we move from one place to another.
Exactly.
Now, the reason why we move from one place to another differs. So people move for economic reasons. People move for political reasons. People move for sociological reasons. People move for various things.
Correct.
So definitely, there is nothing that one can do that would prevent people from moving, because that's just how the human being was structured.
Well, yeah, I agree with you. I agree to you. In time immemorial, people have always been shifting, moving here and there, and
this is not just the black race. If you know the history of the Americas, the history of Europe, the history of Asia, people have always moved from one place to another.
Yeah.
I mean, I spent a few months in Pakistan. And when you understand the socio-geographical issues and socio-political issues of Pakistan and India, you would begin to understand that the very division that is being seen now politically by both Pakistan and India stem from the very issue of migration. Because at some point there were one people moving from one place to another. Now, that said, we have to understand that the mechanisms that are being put in place is what is forcing people to migrate, but through a particular pattern. Now, what am I talking about? You have a visa regime. You have a visa regime that tells you that if I want to go to the United States as an African to study, I have to produce a bank statement that shows that I have the funds to pay at least a minimum of $17,000 for maybe the cheapest university in America. Now, not only that, but I have to pay my air ticket, Remember, I have to get food. I have to have a lot of things in place in order for me to be able to successfully have a visa to travel to the United States to study. This is a visa regime. What this does is you shut a particular bracket of individuals from accessing your educational system, invariably your country, because they cannot afford it and they can't do it. Mm-hmm. Now, if you flip the coin, I've met a lot of students in Oxford. I went to school in the States, I went to school in America, and I met a lot of students that did a lot of exchange programs. Mm-hmm. For them to embark on an exchange program to the Gambia or to Kenya or to any other country, they would not spend even $1,000. Probably it's just their air ticket. Most times, these exchange programs are factored within their tuition that they're already paying. Hmm. And Dr. Loum, you would agree with me that 75% of Americans that went to university could not afford to pay the exorbitant tuition. Most of them are either on loans or grants.
Correct.
Now, with a very progressive system in place and taking into consideration the economy of the United States and any of these progressive, developed countries, if their national cannot afford to pay $17,000 to go to school, how do you expect an African in a third world country to show you proof of funds that is to the tune of $30-something thousand, and also asking them to pay a full year's tuition? Ask, what are you doing? You're basically shutting them out. Now, going back to the whole issue of migration, so I'm giving you just an example of a type of migration where people migrate for probably educational reasons. Correct. Now, this individual cannot go to America because, of course, the person cannot fulfill the visa regime or requirements that they have. You live in the country of the Gambia, where there are no many avenues where the young person can try and maximize the very best of their potential. Because the structures are not present, the structures are not there. Because like we said initially, all the policies are looking at tomorrow, what we will do for the youths tomorrow. They're forgetting about what they can do for them today.
Correct.
Now, if these things are not in place, and the legal way of migration is a hurdle that one cannot surpass, then the whole notion and idea of the back way comes into play. And it is not that these individuals don't know the perilous journey that they are about to undertake. It's not that they don't understand the risk that's there. It is not that they don't understand the suffering, the hardships that would be meted upon them when they embark on these journeys. But two things is at play. It is between the devil and the deep blue sea. It's either I try and survive and make it, or I don't try and I'm here and I become desolate and I die in poverty. So for you to curtail the issues of backway migration or illegal migration and having a lot of young people perish in the Mediterranean, you have to create the enabling environment whereby the Gambian youth would begin to feel that they can do and prosper within their own locality.
Absolutely.
You have to make them feel that they are very important and integral part of the society. Correct. You have to make them look at themselves in present day Gambia today and feel that, you know what, I could be anything I want to be within the society. In the absence of that, they will continue to go, and there is no doctor, do you know how many mechanisms have been put in place to stop illegal migration? You cannot stop it. Like Yajame once said to the United Nations, even if you put electric fence, they will continue to jump, they will continue to go.
Yeah.
And that's the reality.
Yeah. Yeah.
For me, My take on illegal migration is on twofold. One, you have to create structures that allow for legal migration, because you cannot take the right. Migration is a right. Migration is a right. It has been internationally recognized. You cannot take that right from people.
As you said, it's an inborn part of our DNA.
Absolutely.
Since time immemorial.
Absolutely.
I mean, if we want to go into the history of the Gambia, we are all jumble of a lot of people from different parts of the world. I mean,
absolutely.
I'm still trying to find out where I came from, even though I've got some history, and through my dear sister, Kati Loum, and you're right, we move and we tolerate, we accept, and we are, by the way, just agricultural, gregarious people. Agriculture has been part of the moving, shifting of people. We're mobile people. And so we come back now then to the issue of policy and structure. So if they are not there, then young people will still continue to take the risk of going through the back way. So I hope the authorities in the Gambia are listening. This is a wise and prudent discussion, and we're just trying to make a difference and to help. So here again, we talk about the young people off. In fact, they are today. And tomorrow. So yeah. So yes, we continue to examine these issues, these problems that we face. So yes, something happened with my friend, but I guess we're getting close to the hour, and it's been a very stimulating, enlightening discussion this morning. And I'll try and bring our brother and some other people on board quite soon. So if any of you are interested in any topic, please try and you will be welcome. Send me your name. Send me your name, and we'll have you come on board. So again, you're welcome at any time to join this program. It's meant purposefully for Gambians in the diaspora, and you'll be welcome, as I said, to join the group. Yeah.
I'm sorry about that.
Yeah, that's okay.
People keep calling my phone.
Yeah, these things do happen. You're welcome. I mean, your ideas, moving ideas, are more important than the tech issue. So, yeah, we're just trying to wrap up. And I was saying that this is quite a stimulating discussion, and you've made an enormous contribution. Again, as a review, a summary, we talked about the leadership, the lack of leadership. Leadership in the right place, visionary leaders, leaders that sees beyond themselves, look current and into the future, make plans for today, tomorrow, and the years ahead. We also talked about how the young people, we need policy, people with policy. And you're so right, brother, that if we do not have the right people in place, nor the right policy, things wouldn't work. And these have been some of the issues we have in that country. So we cannot always blame the young people, but blame the leaders. And I just pray and wish and hope that someday you will find it comfortable in your mind to go back. And I'm sure you're making contribution already now, but listening to you, and you know I've always been your fan, but listening to you today has really magnified my enthusiasm and favor for people like you to go back and to help. We need a change. We truly need a change. Most of the guys there now are just there for themselves, acquiring. They are selfish. They have no vision for tomorrow, long term, immediately, and so on and so forth. And we need to create space for our youth. Create space. You're right. The older folks are still there, lingering on. They don't want to give up or create space for the younger people. That is not right. And that needs to be re-examined, and there should be policies in place. I don't know, what's the retirement age in Gambia? Do you know, brother?
I think it's 65.
65. Okay.
It was 55 before, and I think it's been moved to either 60 or 65.
Okay.
I think it's 60 or 65. Yeah.
Okay. I mean, so that really needs to not just be on the books, but it needs to be implemented. When people get to that age, they should step down. They should have prepared themselves. You know,
they don't step down. They start asking for contracts and asking for extension of contracts and trying to do everything to just. I mean, it's as if they just want to die in office. I'm told until Lizzie just commented that it's 60 now. The retirement age is 60.
Okay, all right, okay. But I'm sure, I guess there are a lot of people there who are way above and beyond.
Oh, a whole lot.
So,
because you see, the thing is, older people need to see and understand that there's dignity in taking up advisory roles.
Mm.
It is very dignified.
And not only that, brother, I was going to, but this will be for another session. Mentorship. We lack mentorship.
Absolutely.
I mean, we have few retired, some retired, and they're just roaming around, talking here and there, blah, 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 not making any contribution. And you're right, there is dignity in the role of advisory, mentoring, and helping others.
How would you ever mentor anyone when you're actually struggling for position with the mentee?
Well, there you go.
So that's the problem right there.
Yeah, there you go. So if I have my way, I would immediately, even as of next week, recommend that you become the head of the civil service or even chief justice.
It's actually my dream, you know. I don't. my dream always, and most of my friends know this, my dream is actually to be head of the civil service. That's all I want. I hope someday I'll be able to achieve that. I don't want too much, but I think that I think I have the wherewithal to be able to do and bring in some very necessary changes within the civil service. Because the thing is, you have to be decisive when you take up positions of authority. And you cannot influence decisions or change, especially when it comes to things like system change, if you are, if you want to please everybody and you want to be in everybody's good books. Because when you make very serious decisions, you tend to hurt or rob the egos of certain people in a wrong way. It happens. It must happen. So one major attribute of a person who, especially taking a position as the head of the civil service, is to be very decisive. You have to be very, very decisive. Because
now, educate me. Sorry to educate me. Now, how do somebody gets to that position? Is it politically appointed or what?
As of now, it's politically appointed. It shouldn't be so, but
exactly.
The head of the civil service is appointed by the president.
Really?
Yeah.
So he chooses, maybe his ally or somebody who supports him and think the same way.
That is why I am of the view that there should be a position created as chief of staff of the president. Because what happens now is the role of the Secretary General and head of the civil service, it kind of doubles the TOR, the terms of reference of the Secretary General. It's more or less like a fusion of a chief of staff of the president and the Secretary General. So in my view, I would have thought that separating those roles, having a chief of staff that's absolutely answerable to the president and is a political office, should be different from the head of the civil service. The head of the civil service has to stem from the civil service. He has to understand the dynamics of the civil service. He has to have some semblance of knowledge and idea of the general mechanisms that keep the civil service in place. He has to have subject matter knowledge of at least, to a minimum standard of every single line ministry that makes up the government. Because as head of the civil service, you are the boss, you are the supervisor of every single line ministry, every single sector. So you have to be able to understand that. So the way I see the civil service in the Gambia is, and this is from my experience, is that it is way too large, and you have very unnecessary and frills that are hanging on to the system and weighing the system down. So the productivity rate of the civil service is so low because you have so many personnel and officials that are within that structure that are not bringing any sort of gain towards the progress of the system. So every ministry that you go to, really, it's about 40% that are doing the work. So you don't need the 60%. And in the age of technology, in the age of computers, now 70% of the work can be done, remotely.
In fact, I think, and I've been suggesting this all along, that we need to digitalize most of the system or the government offices and places in the Gambia. We're way too far away.
But there's a problem with that. Taking into consideration what happened a few weeks ago in Gambia when there was a complete internet shutdown. I mean, if you digitalize everything and you rely solely on the internet and then it shuts down, you cripple your system. So again, it takes us back to the initial point that you have to have certain structures in place in order to make certain implementations of certain things. So for example, if you know you want to digitalize your entire system, you know you want to go basically use the most formidable and advanced technological things with respect to your institutions of government, you know you need internet, you need communication, you need computers, you need people that are tech savvy, you need people that have some sort of knowledge with IT, that understand how to use these things. Because if you don't, then you cannot do it. So again, it takes you back to the vision. What do you want? Do you want, like, for example, you just said now that you want a digitalized civil service structure. You want a digitalized system in place in most areas of operations in the Gambia. That is your vision. So if you have that vision, what do you do? Now, in recruiting people into your civil service structure, they must possess some semblance of IT knowledge. And whereas they don't, you have to create the enabling environment whereby they would be offered some sort of training on the job to be able to get to that level.
And I hope the head of the civil service is listening, because we are helping him to do his job. And we'll come back to that. But since you mentioned that there was an outage of the whole whatever a few days or weeks ago, was anybody held responsible for that? Accountable?
No, I don't think so. I've not heard that anyone has been held responsible. I've not heard that.
There you go. I mean, I'm sure it did not happen by itself. Somebody must be held. Again, we come back to the issue accountability and responsibility. Now, as before we get into the closing in 2 minutes, what is the role of the People's House? I would like to see change rather than the head of the civil service being a political appointee, that it should be professional. What role does the parliament plays in this? I mean,
well, I think you cannot talk about anything that is going on. And this is what I keep. I mean, when I have discussions with my friends, this is what I mention, that you cannot really criticize or critique the government and exclude the role of parliamentarians. Parliamentarians have an oversight, sort of jurisdiction over the executive. Correct. I mean, if you bring in the notions of checks and balances, separation of powers, you would get to understand that they have a huge role to play. So, for example, when you talk about certain things that are happening, or the executive is doing this, the executive is doing that, Dr. Loum, the executive cannot make 90% of the decisions they make without approval from Parliament.
Right.
So 90% of the things that the executive do or implement or don't do, whether they're action or inaction, really is endorsed and given them, beautiful blessings from Parliament. So unless parliamentarians begin to understand their role, begin to understand and have some semblance of knowledge in structures, in institutions of governance, then it will just be another exercise in utility. For you to have an oversight role on the Ministry of Foreign Affairs, whether the Select Committee on Foreign Affairs, you have to have some semblance of knowledge of diplomacy. You have to have some sort of knowledge of foreign policy. You have to understand the structures of the foreign ministry. You have to understand the vision, the goals, the objectives of Gambia's foreign policy. In the absence of that, how can you critique? How can you give an oversight sort of advisory position or supervisory position over the foreign ministry?
Well, you don't know.
Of Health.
You don't know.
If you don't understand the health issues of the country, you don't understand the dynamics of the health sector. You don't understand the strategic goals of the Ministry of Health. How can you critique the government? How can you critique the health ministry? So parliamentarians have to have some sort of subject matter knowledge of, you know, every single sector in our governance structure. And it is only then that they would be able to influence the decisions and outcomes that make the overall you know, governance sector of our country.
Yeah, boy, I think
because the government, and I keep saying this, the government is not the executive. The government is not the judiciary. The government is not the legislature. The government is the combination of the executive, the judiciary, and the legislature. This is what makes up the government. So when you criticize the government, when you hear parliamentarians criticize the government, who are they criticizing? They're criticizing themselves. When you hear judicial officers criticize the government, who are they criticizing? They're criticizing themselves. When you hear the executive criticize the legislature, who are they criticizing? They're criticizing themselves, because these three are intertwined.
Correct. That's
these three that's why they refer to the arms of government. They are the government. They make up the government, and they all have very pivotal and integral role in the overall governance structure of the country. So if the country does not move forward, you can hold the executive responsible, you can hold the legislature responsible, and you can hold the judiciary responsible, because together they form the government.
Yeah. Well, yeah, that's good. That's correct. I think we've gone past the time now, and we've made very, very insightful thinking, ideas, and recommendation. I hope the powers that be are listening, and if they are not, then hopefully those who have listened will whisper, because you know Gambia, the Congosa, they talk too much. So they can whisper that, we had a brilliant guy, brother Melville Roberts and Dr. Loum on board. So I'll have you come again. This is so stimulating, so interesting, so fascinating, brilliant ideas. Someone who, as I said, if I have my way, come Monday, you'll be leading the entire ministry as head of the civil service. I don't know who is there now, but I hope he's learned a lot from our discussion today. Once again, I say thank you. And so many people have listened. In fact, they're still coming on. So we'll have you again. Once again, I say thank you, brother, and enjoy the rest of your weekend. And
thank you very much.
It's been a humbling pleasure and a pleasant one. By the way, I look at your afro. I used to be like that when I was in my 20s. And when I look at those pictures, I said, where's the hair gone? You know. Well, thank God for your contribution. And I wish you the very best. And you know my mind for you. You've always been my fan. Yeah, greetings to the rest of the family, and may God bless you. Thank you again. Thanks.
Thank you very much. Yeah, you're welcome. I appreciate it. Thank you so much for having me.
Yeah, bye-bye. Yeah, bye-bye.